Boris Johnson, and we don't see much of him, but he was there today in the House of Commons, Prime Minister's Question Time, and making us a big, big pledge, setting a new target that by the 1st of June, there would be 25,000 contact tracers operational, and that it would be a world-beating system. Do you believe the government will meet this target? And I find it very difficult to be anything other than deeply sceptical. Chris in Darlington says to me, why did they abandon contact tracing? They could have focused it on care homes and NHS workers. We could have learnt lessons and built capacity. Chris, two reasons. The small reason is we didn't have much capacity. But the big reason is you're going back into a time where basically we were pursuing a policy of herd immunity, which we then turned around and went for lockdown. That, I think, above all, is why they stopped contact tracing. And the big lesson with this pandemic, and I guess probably with all pandemics, and we saw this from South Korea, even though Mr. Hancock thinks we're better than them, goodness knows why. We've seen it from places like South Korea. You know, we've seen it to a large extent in Germany as well. I mean, don't forget, you know, German deaths are a quarter of what ours are. Is that very, very early in the infection, that is when you need to be testing, isolating, and tracing. If you don't, you have full risk, really, of infection rates doubling every 3 to 4 days. And that is why we're in so much of a worse place than countries like Germany. And that's not me being anti-government, that's me just telling the truth. Now, Daniel Hopwood says, I don't want to be tracked or traced. I hope they don't reach their target. On Twitter, I wouldn't trust this government to deliver a pint of milk. Journalists are not asking the right questions. Suzanne, that's interesting. And you know, if you're regular, you'll have heard me being very critical about these 5 p.m. press conferences. And in general, I think the very low quality of questions being asked by journalists, and it coincides with the YouGov poll today, where across over 20 countries around the world, America, Australia, France, Germany, the UK, people are asked how much they trust the media. And what is fascinating is that in this country, support in the media has collapsed during this pandemic. Increasingly, people don't believe what they are being told, which is remarkable. You know, we're way, way below. In fact, I think we're the second worst in the whole of the world, in the whole of the free world, in terms of trusting what the media say. Perhaps Boris really meant to say he'll have a world-beating trick-or-treat system in place by the 31st of October, says John in Ely. We will introduce testing and tracing after the event. People have already died. Cases are on the way down. If they can recruit 25 tracers now, why not recruit them in early March? Luke, because they didn't really want to, because we were going for a herd immunity strategy, and nobody must forget that. That was the approach we were on. They then took a 180 degree turn, and we went for a lockdown. Let's go to